All right, let's do this. If you're here, I bet you're ready to take a bite out of An American Werewolf in London.
One of the all-time greats.
A true classic. We're talking 1981, directed by the one and only John Landis.
Oh yeah, a master of blending horror and comedy.
Absolutely. And we can't forget the special effects.
Legendary Rick Baker.
Groundbreaking work, even today. This deep dive, we're going to unpack what makes this film tick, why it still resonates with audiences, and why it's so much more than just your average werewolf flick.
It's a film that really did change the game.
So imagine this. Two American backpackers, David and Jack, they're on a trip through the English countryside. Idyllic, right?
Beautiful scenery, rolling hills.
Until it's not. It's a full moon, they're crossing the moors, and bam, attacked by something ferocious.
That scene is pure tension. You can feel the isolation, the vulnerability.
Landis just throws you right into the danger. Sadly, Jack doesn't survive the attack.
A tragic end, setting the stage for what's to come.
But David, he lives. Only to find out that his troubles are far from over. He's been bitten. And that bite, well, it comes with some seriously nasty side effects.
More than just a scratch, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's the start of a whole nightmare for David.
And it's not just the physical transformation that's so gripping.
No, it goes much deeper than that.
David's battling this new reality, this monstrous thing he's becoming. On top of that, the guilt over Jack's death, the budding romance with Nurse Alex.
Adds so many layers to this story.
And David Naughton, man, he nails that performance. You see it all. The fear, the confusion, the slow descent into something he can't control.
A descent into the monstrous unknown.
And speaking of monsters, we got to talk about the transformation scene.
Oh yeah, the one that set the bar.
A total game changer.
Legendary.
Seriously, the way Landis and Baker brought that to life, purely practical effects, just blew audiences away.
And it's still effective, even today. You can see why Baker won the first ever Oscar for Best Makeup for this film.
It's a masterpiece. David's body contorting, bones snapping, fur sprouting. So visceral, so realistic.
You feel every agonizing moment of it.
And it's not just a technical marvel. It's got such symbolic weight, you know?
Yeah.
That loss of control, unleashing the primal, blurring the lines between man and beast.
It's a powerful visual metaphor for the darker side of human nature, the things we try to repress.
But while An American Werewolf in London doesn't shy away from the horror, it also has this wonderfully dark humor running through it.
Absolutely. Landis manages to inject humor without taking away from the scares.
It's like he's saying, hey, this is terrifying, but we can still have a little fun with it.
Exactly. And it works brilliantly. It keeps the audience on edge. You never know if you should be laughing or screaming.
Like when Jack shows up as a ghost. Even in death, he's got this morbidly funny presence, popping up, giving David advice, trying to prevent him from going on a rampage through London.
Your dynamic is fantastic. It's this twisted buddy comedy happening inside a horror film.
Jack, the decaying, sarcastic friend, and David, clinging to his humanity while wrestling with this monstrous transformation.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest situations, sometimes laughter is the only way to cope.
And the other characters, they're not just your typical horror movie tropes either. They feel like real people.
Definitely. They have depth, their own motivations.
You've got David battling this inner monster, Nurse Alex offering kindness and a really heartbreaking love story, and even Dr. Hirsch, the skeptic who gets pulled into this supernatural mess.
Each of them represents a different way of reacting to the extraordinary.
Makes you think, how would you react if you were thrown into a world of werewolves and ancient curses?
It's a question that lingers long after the film ends.
And visually, the film is stunning. That English countryside, both beautiful and eerie, and then the gritty streets of London.
Robert Painter's cinematography is incredible. He captures the mood perfectly.
Wide shots of the moors, creating that sense of isolation, and then these claustrophobic, neon-lit alleys of London.
A real contrast. And he uses light and shadow so effectively to build tension.
And Malcolm Campbell's editing keeps things moving. The pacing is perfect. Those moments of quiet suspense, then sudden bursts of action, and then those little breaths of dark humor sprinkled in.
He knows just when to tighten the screws and when to give the audience a moment to catch their breath.
Like that scene where David wakes up naked in the wolf enclosure at the zoo after his first transformation.
Oh man, classic scene, the way it cuts between David's confusion and the reactions of the zookeepers.
Pure comedic gold. And that upbeat pop song playing in the background, it just adds to the absurdity of it all.
A brilliant juxtaposition of humor and horror. And it reminds us that the film's soundtrack is full of these little gems, songs with moon in the title.
Subtle but clever, like the music itself is hinting at the dark events to come.
It all adds to the film's unique atmosphere. It's these details, the attention to atmosphere, the brilliant use of music and editing, that elevate An American Werewolf in London above the typical horror flick.
It's a film that makes you think, it makes you laugh, and it definitely makes you jump. A true cinematic experience. But before we go any further, we need to take a little break. Don't worry, we'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into the world of An American Werewolf in London.
And we're back. More werewolf goodness coming your way. So we've been talking about all the great stuff in An American Werewolf in London, the effects, the characters, that perfect blend of scares and laughs that Landis nails. But now I'm thinking about the bigger picture, Like, how did this film change the game for horror comedy? What came after?
Ooh, that's a good one. It really did shake things up. Back then, 1981, horror was kind of stuck. Slasher flicks, super serious stuff.
Yeah, not much room for humor.
Right. Landis comes along, takes this classic werewolf story, and he injects it with this sharp wit, this genuine fun.
Didn't shy away from the gore either?
Nope. And that's what's so cool. He found that balance where the horror and the comedy feed off each other.
Makes it even creepier, Exactly. You're laughing one minute, then jumping out of your skin the next. You never quite settle in.
Keeps you guessing.
And so many filmmakers after Landis, they saw that. Gremlins, Ghostbusters, even something like Shaun of the Dead. They all owe a bit of their DNA to An American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, I can see that now. That dark humor, it's funny, but it's got this edge to it. Makes you a little uneasy.
Exactly. And it's not just the humor. The way Landis used those practical effects, especially in that transformation scene, so influential. Tons of creature features that came out later. The Thing, The Fly, even Jurassic Park to some extent.
Wow, I never thought about it like that, but you're totally right. Pretty amazing that a film from over 40 years ago is still inspiring filmmakers today.
It's a testament to its staying power, for sure. But, there's another layer to this film that I think we should dig into. That exploration of identity, of guilt, of what makes us human or monstrous.
Yeah, David's transformation, it's not just a physical thing, right? It's tied to everything he's going through.
Right. It's like a reflection of that internal struggle, the trauma of the attack, the guilt over Jack's death.
You get the feeling he's punishing himself for surviving.
Yeah, like he doesn't deserve to be okay.
Yeah.
And that guilt, it manifests in this monstrous form he can't control. Powerful stuff. Really makes you think.
And it's not just about David either. The whole film plays with these ideas of isolation, fear of the unknown. These American guys, they're totally out of their element in this foreign land.
Fish out of water.
Yeah. And those Moors, they become this symbol of isolation. Like anything could happen out there. Old myths, modern fears, all colliding.
It's like the film is saying, even in a world that feels smaller and smaller, there are still places where you can feel totally alone, lost.
And that's a feeling everyone gets, right? Even if you haven't been chased by a werewolf.
Exactly. It's that fear of being lost, being alone, facing something you don't understand and can't control. Universal stuff.
And An American Werewolf in London, it just nails that primal fear. But, we've talked a lot about the good stuff. I'm curious, is there anything in the film that you think maybe hasn't aged so well? Something that could have been done differently?
Good point. No film's perfect, right? Even a classic like this. Some people find the ending a bit abrupt, like what happens to David, what about Alex? We don't really get that closure.
I see that. Leaves you with a lot of questions. Do you think Landis did that on purpose? To leave the audience with that uneasy feeling? Or was it just, a misstep?
Tough to say. It could be either, right? On one hand, that abrupt ending, it could emphasize those themes of fate, how unpredictable things are, the curse, it just keeps going. No peace, even in death.
Kind of a bleak message.
Yeah, but it fits the tone of the film. But then again, maybe with studio interference, who knows? Or maybe Landis just didn't stick the landing.
Interesting. Shows how even a masterpiece can have its flaws and how people interpret things differently.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of film, right? There's always something to discuss, something to analyze.
So before we go full film critic mode here, I think it's time for another quick break. But fear not, werewolf fans. We'll be back soon to talk about the legacy of An American Werewolf in London and why it still has such a bite after all these years. And we're back one last time, wrapping up our werewolf marathon with An American Werewolf in London. We've covered a lot of ground. The scares, the laughs, the effects, the influence. But what sticks with you? What makes this film more than just a monster movie?
For me, it's that idea of duality, the two sides of ourselves. And Landis does it so well with this mix of horror and comedy. David, he becomes a literal monster, but it's really a metaphor for what's happening inside him.
Like the werewolf is all those dark impulses, those things we try to keep hidden even from ourselves.
Exactly. And it's even more powerful because David, he didn't choose this monster inside him. It was forced upon him. Makes you think about free will, How much control do we really have over who we become?
Yeah, heavy stuff. Like, if that happened to you, how would you react? Would you give in to the darkness? Or fight like hell to stay human?
That's the question, isn't it? And the film, it doesn't give you any easy answers. It leaves you wrestling with that, facing those fears.
Makes it more than just a popcorn flick, that's for sure. More like a psychological thriller. Gets under your skin. Speaking of which, we got to talk about the legacy, right? American Werewolf, it didn't just raise the bar for special effects. It kind of legitimized the whole horror comedy thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Before this, horror and comedy, they were like oil and water.
Yeah.
But Landis showed everyone, hey, you can do both. You can make people laugh and scare the hell out of them at the same time.
And he didn't hold back on either side. The gore, the laughs, it's all there.
It's a tightrope walk, but he makes it look easy. Never feels forced, He just knew how to find that balance.
It's a film you can watch over and over again and still find something new. Some little detail, some hidden meaning you missed before.
That's the mark of a true classic, I think. A film that sparks discussion, keeps you thinking, even after it's over.
So, as we close out our deep dive into An American Werewolf in London, I guess I'm left with this sense of awe, at how powerful film can be. It entertains, it scares, it makes you question everything.
And sometimes it reminds you that the scariest monsters, they're the ones we create ourselves. We all got that potential for good and evil inside us. The choice is ours.
So next time you're out under a full moon, maybe think twice about wandering too far off the path, huh? Remember David's story, that one bite? It can change everything.
And that's a wrap. Keep watching, keep thinking, and keep exploring those dark corners of your imagination. You never know what you might find.